Alright guys, well yesterday I did a speech on 10-dimension theory for my astronomy club that I started last year, and here's just some clips on what went down.
So we're going to be talking about 11-dimension theory. First we're going to start off with the first dimension. You guys know from math, it's point, it's basically just like specify an area or location. So for the first dimension, we're going to have one point, and then we're going to have another point. They're just kind of floating in nowhere. This is nothing. They're not really actual things. They're just to specify locations. And then if we draw a line from point to point, that gives us length or width, whichever way you want to look at it. And that would be the first dimension. Alright, second dimension, we're going to have the first dimension. And then on top of that, we're going to have width. So we have length and width. So we're just going to imagine Santa over here. Santa is a flatlander. It means he has length and width, but he has no depth. So it'd be impossibly thin there. But if we were to like turn him sideways, theoretically, you wouldn't see anything because all he has is length and width. Up to the third dimension, which I think we're all pretty familiar with because we live there. It's a nice place. So we're going to take the 2-dimension and we're going to bend it through right here. So we're going to imagine it like an ant on this paper, right? And the ant, we're going to say is a flatlander. It's not an actual ant. Crawling around on the paper. But in his little world, all he sees is flat in front of him because he's a little 2-dimensional creature. And we're going to fold the paper like this. And now he's going to walk from here to the other side. And then we're going to unfold the paper, and he's going to be over there. His perspective is just going to walk in a line. Now I'm here. But like really, in the third dimension, he went from like here all the way to here, and faster than you could in his little 2-dimensional plane. Fourth dimension is when poop gets real. We're going to imagine little baby Jake when people could deal with me, and then I'm going to grow up a little bit, start wearing gold t-shirts and play with my skateboard. And then I'm going to be annoying teenager Jake, where I yell at everything and I hate the government. And then I'm going to be adult Jake and blah blah and so forth, and then I'm going to be like really old, and I'm going to have a cane, and I'm going to smoke fat cigars and sit on my porch and yell at kids. We're going to be all wrinkly. If we take my whole life and we put it into worm-like lines. When I was a baby, that was a point. When I'm like 2 seconds from dying, that's a point. We can draw a line through these 2 points. And the only thing that separates me right here from like me over here would be duration. This is an object or anything in the third dimension. So I use the example of me. And then this is the same object in the third dimension X amount of time later. Next, we're going to have little baby Jake at the bottom. I'm going to be innocent and not corrupted. Then there's going to be me right now as I like talk at a board. Maybe I don't really like that right now, even though I do. I like art. You know, I wanted to be a billionaire by this age instead. You know, I always thought I was going to be. I had big dreams. There's money Jake over here. That's like a totally different timeline that I could have went for. I could have been a billionaire when I was 6 and invented a form of jam that everybody loved. You know how to make jam. I want to be over here. But the problem is I'm in this timeline. This is the 5th dimension. It's the separate amount of timelines from a certain object or thing in the 3rd dimension going through the 4th dimension in separate realities of the 5th dimension. I was a baby, and I grew up with like all these certain circumstances, so I'm like right here, right now. With different circumstances, I could have somehow became a millionaire. So next, the problem is, I want to be the millionaire, so I'm going to try to do it, and I'm going to bend time through the 6th dimension to be billionaire Jake. The 6th dimension is a bend, and that's how we're going to look at, that's how we looked at the 3rd dimension, how just kind of imagine the ant that's like popping in from one side to the other. So say that I'm on this 5th dimensional piece of paper and I'm in Jake Ant, and somebody folds the paper here, and then I like pop over here and I'm throwing money and popping champagne bottles. That would be me jumping from this dimension to a different part in the 5th dimension where I'm a billionaire.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, you picking up what I'm putting down? Yeah. Poop gets more real. They say, this is the Big Bang. Since the Big Bang, there could be an infinite amount of possibilities of how the universe ends. You could end by blaming Santa Claus bomb. Charlie Sheen could infect the world. There's a bunch of possibilities for how the universe could end in this long, 4th dimensional timeline of the universe. So Big Bang, end of the universe. But there's also multiple ends of the universe, so we're going to say this is the Big Bang, and there's multiple ends of the universe. And we're going to treat all of these ends of the universe plus the Big Bang into one point, and we're going to call that point infinity. So that is all of the different timelines of every single object in the entirety of the universe. The next one, this is where it sort of deviates from anything that makes sense, because infinity is the epitome of everything, so how could there be more than everything, you ask? And I reply, here is our little infinity dot down here. This is everything that's going on in our universe at any given time ever, for every possibility, blah, 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 blah. And here, to make a next dimension, we're going to have to draw a line, right? So we're going to have another point. That another point, in theory, has to be infinity too. And you say, Jake, how can there be two infinities? And I rebuttal and say, because of different initial conditions. Different initial conditions imply that the Big Bang was not the same as our Big Bang. Notice how this point started with the Big Bang, our Big Bang, and then everything else went sort of haywire from there. You can go any different kind of possibility. Different initial conditions would imply, like, hey, this universe has 7.4 meters per second squared on a planet that has the same gravity as Earth instead of 9.8 meters per second. Or that the speed of light is a different condition than ours is, that it travels a lot slower and everything's dark all the time. And we're going to say that this is the 8th dimension. It's multiple possibilities of different infinities. Not to mention, it's a curve through infinity. Infinity, infinity. We have the different initial conditions, and then we're going to be able to jump from one initial condition, infinity, to another initial condition. I'm here, and then same thing, somebody bends this giant 8th dimensional piece of paper through me, and I'm walking, and then all of a sudden the gravity here is like really heavy, and I like fall on the ground, and like all my guts start running. And the 9th is a bend through the 8th, sort of how the 3rd and the 6th are. And now we're gonna say all of the infinities of every single form of different initial conditions, because there has to be an infinite form of that. And we're going to say all of this is one big, fat, beautiful, amazing, luscious, sideways 8. This is the infinity of infinities. It is every single initial condition plus every single initial possibility in said universe, ever into one point. If you guys have any ideas for what could possibly be more than infinity of infinity, I would love to hear it.
Now, if you guys have any ideas on what you think the 11th dimension is, comment below and let me know. You know?
Yeah. It's nothing new.